In this video, we're going to be comparing HDMI versus SDI and highlighting 4 key differences between the two. And at the end, we're going to show you how to convert it and explain when it's best to purchase HDMI or SDI.
Well, I already did this video 10 years ago, but okay, let's just run it back.
We didn't mean to match either. Let's talk about how far each cable can run to start. HDMI is typically reliable up to about 25 to 50 feet before you need active cables, repeaters, or extenders. Now, if you want to get a 100-foot HDMI cable, I'd recommend buying it from monoprice.com. We've purchased some 75 feet and 100-foot cables from here, and they tend to generally work out pretty well for us.
And you'll notice with longer HDMI cables over 50 feet, they're only gonna go in one direction. And you'll see at both ends of the cable, it'll say source and display. So you have to plug the input using one end and the output using another end.
So I know a lot of people wouldn't maybe recommend something over 50 feet, but you can buy them and just make sure you test them with your setup. SDI, on the other hand, is designed for longer runs up to 300 feet.
Now, if you're gonna buy a longer SDI cable and you're taking it with you places, we recommend buying them in 100-foot sections because wrapping up a 200-foot SDI connection is not fun when you're trying to go home after a live event. Connector design and physical security. Now let's talk about the connector itself. HDMI uses a simple plug-in connector that can come in 3 different sizes. First, there's micro HDMI or baby HDMI, and this is for action cameras and mirrorless cameras. Then there's mini HDMI, which is randomly found on monitors and other random cameras.
Some camcorders have mini HDMI
Some camcorders do have mini HDMI. And then there's full-size HDMI, which you've all seen, which plugs into your laptops and your smart TVs. The only real issue with HDMI is that it can get unplugged really easily. Those mini connections and those micro connections are fickle, and sometimes they even break. So that's something to be aware of.
Yeah, remember when you tripped in the studio and unplugged the TV we're using? The HDMI connection just came right out.
Now let's talk about SDI. SDI cables physically twist and lock into place. This makes it better for environments with a lot of foot traffic and if you're moving a camera around quite a bit. This creates a more secure connection so you know the cable isn't just gonna fall out.
You wanna try an experiment?
All right, let's try an experiment. Here's SDI cabling. Here's HDMI cabling.
Signal standards and video formats. HDMI cables support a wide range of resolutions including 1080p and 4K, but compatibility can vary between devices. For 4K workflows, you're going to want to invest in HDMI 2.1 cables for the best results. SDI uses clearly defined standards: 3G SDI for 1080p 60, 6G SDI for 4K 30, and 12G SDI for 4K 60. So if you have an HDMI or SDI cable plugged in and the signal's not working, check to make sure you have the right cable or change the resolution to see if that would help.
Now let's talk about the cost of cables. HDMI cables are generally less expensive and easy to find, and they're available almost anywhere because everything uses them. If you forget one on a job, you can easily run to a local Walmart or Best Buy and grab a replacement that same day. That makes HDMI really convenient for smaller setups, quick installs, or situations where you need a cable right now. SDI cables, on the other hand, usually cost more upfront, especially at longer lengths. At least here in Cleveland, there's basically only one place that sells them, and that's downtown. So if you're not near somewhere that sells broadcast equipment and you suddenly need one, you're kind of stuck. At the end of the day, this isn't about video quality, it's about choosing between quick access and low cost, or a more structured long-term setup.
So when it comes to actually choosing between HDMI and SDI, this is where it really comes down to situation. If you're doing a smaller event, you're trying to set up quickly and your cable runs are short, and you know people aren't gonna be like walking in front of you and unplugging things, HDMI makes a lot of sense. It's simple, it's fast, it gets the job done when everything's close together.
But once you start adding longer runs, more gear, or more complexity, SDI can be really helpful and help streamline your entire signal flow. If you're ever in a job where you're using both HDMI and SDI, which for us is most cases, bidirectional converters can be a lifesaver. Here are 2 bidirectional converters that we love using that are pretty affordable and we take with us everywhere we go.
All right, Josh, let's do a little bonus section about little tips and tricks for buying HDMI and SDI cables. I'd be like, my tip, buy the thinner cables because they're easier to wrap and they look nicer when you put them out on the table.
And when you buy a new cable, it doesn't hurt to label the length of that cable. Especially as you get over 50 feet for HDMI and SDI, it can be hard and confusing to figure out how long this thing is when you see it all wrapped up.
And to go along with what you're saying, Josh, put a colored zip tie on all your cables so you know which ones are yours. We've been on plenty of jobs where people at the end of it are packing up and they're like, whose HDMI cable is this? And you never want to be in a situation where someone thinks it's theirs, but it's yours and you paid $75 for a cable.
And for really long cables, let's not forget about bongo ties. Bongo ties are these really cheap, inexpensive rubber bands that makes it super easy to wrap your longer cables without actually having to Velcro them.
I freaking love bongo ties. Pretty much anytime we order on B&H, I just order another pack of 10 for fun.
If you have any questions about HDMI or SDI connections, let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching and happy streaming.